"Don't come, just send the check," my ungrateful son said about his housewarming after I'd paid his mortgage for 2 years. So I sent something alright, but it wasn't a check. I should have seen it coming when my son Leo stopped calling me dad and started calling me sir. Not out of respect, but out of distance. Like I was a bank manager he had to be polite to rather than the father who'd raised him alone after his mother died when he was 12. At 65, I'd spent the last 15 years of my retirement doing what I thought was right, supporting my only child as he built his life. Leo had always been ambitious, but ambition without direction leads to expensive mistakes. After college, it was the failed restaurant venture that cost me $30,000. Then the marketing agency that folded after 6 months, another $25,000. Each time, Leo promised this was the last time, that he'd learned his lesson. "I just need to get on my feet, Dad," he'd say, and I'd believe him because that's what fathers do. The pattern started innocently enough. Leo landed a decent job at a tech company in Portland, married his college girlfriend Amanda, and seemed to be settling down. When they decided to buy their first house, a beautiful Craftsman in the Pearl District, they were $50,000 short of the down payment. "The market's moving so fast," Leo explained over dinner at my small apartment. "If we don't act now, we'll be priced out forever." I looked at my son, 32 years old, wearing a designer shirt that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget, and felt that familiar tug of parental obligation. "How much do you need?" "Just for the down payment. We can handle the mortgage ourselves." I liquidated a CD the next week. $50,000 from my retirement savings, handed over without hesitation. Leo hugged me at the bank, called me the best father in the world, promised this was the investment that would change everything. For 3 months it seemed like he was right. Leo and Amanda moved into their dream house, sent photos of their housewarming party, talked about starting a family. I felt proud, useful, like I'd helped my son achieve something meaningful. Then Leo lost his job. "It's temporary," he assured me during a tense phone call. "Just a company-wide downsizing. I'm already interviewing at other places." "What about the mortgage?" Pause. "Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about." The temporary help lasted 18 months. $1,200 every month, automatically transferred from my checking account to theirs. No fanfare, no gratitude, just an expectation that had somehow solidified into obligation. When Leo finally found another job, the payments didn't stop. "We're trying to get ahead," Amanda explained when I gently asked about it. "Build up some savings, you know? Just a few more months." The few more months became a year. Then 2 years. The automatic transfer became as routine as my electric bill, and about as appreciated. Meanwhile, my relationship with Leo changed in ways I didn't fully understand at first. Our weekly dinners became monthly, then occasional. He stopped dropping by unannounced, stopped calling just to chat. When we did speak, the conversations felt scripted, polite, carefully neutral. "How's work going?" I'd ask. "Good, really good. Busy, you know how it is." "And Amanda?" "She's great. Working on getting promoted." Surface-level updates delivered with the enthusiasm of a weather report. I told myself Leo was just busy. Married life, career pressures, the natural progression of a son becoming independent. But independence doesn't typically require monthly financial support from your parent. The first time I wasn't invited to something, I convinced myself it was an oversight. Leo's birthday party, 35 people at a trendy restaurant downtown. I saw the photos on Facebook the next day, my son laughing with friends and coworkers I'd never met. "Sorry, Dad," he said when I mentioned it. "It was just a last-minute thing with work people. You would have been bored." The second time was Amanda's promotion celebration. A dinner party at their house, which I'd helped them buy, for colleagues and neighbors I'd never been introduced to. "We kept it small," Leo explained. "Just Amanda's work friends." The third time was when I stopped making excuses for him. Leo's company had given him some kind of award, Employee of the Month or Quarter, something that warranted a celebration dinner. I found out about it from his social media posts, photos of him and Amanda at an expensive steakhouse with what looked like his entire department. When I called to congratulate him, Leo sounded surprised. "All that? Yeah, thanks. It wasn't a big deal. It looked like you celebrated pretty thoroughly." Another pause. "Just some colleagues wanted to go out. You know how work things are." I didn't know how work things were because Leo had never included me in any work things. In 2 years of paying his mortgage, I'd never met a single person from his company, never been invited to a single work-related event, never even seen his office. I started paying attention to the patterns. Leo called me on the 1st of every month, always around the same time, always with the same tone. friendly but hurried, like he was checking an item off a to-do list. "Hey Dad, just wanted to see how you're doing." We'd chat for exactly 10 to 15 minutes about safe topics. My health, the weather, generic work updates. Then Leo would wrap up with the same casual sign-off. "Well, I should let you go. Take care of yourself." Never an invitation to dinner, never a suggestion to get together, never a mention of anything meaningful happening in his life. Just a monthly maintenance call, like he was checking on an elderly relative he felt obligated to monitor. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was financing his lifestyle while being systematically excluded from his life. But it took the housewarming incident to make me see the relationship for what it really was. Leo and Amanda had decided to renovate their kitchen. The kitchen in the house I'd helped them buy, paid for with mortgage payments I'd been making for 2 years. They'd hired an expensive contractor, installed custom cabinets, granite countertops, professional-grade appliances. "It's an investment in the property value," Leo explained when I asked about the cost. He didn't mention who was making that investment possible. The renovation took 3 months and cost me, nearly $40,000 in additional expenses. Leo had approached me carefully, explaining how the kitchen needed updating for safety reasons, and how the improvements would add significant value to the house. I'd agreed because I always agreed. Because saying no to Leo felt like failing as a father. When the kitchen was finished, they planned a housewarming party to show it off. Leo mentioned it casually during one of our monthly calls. "Amanda's excited to finally have a proper kitchen for entertaining," he said. "We're having some people over next weekend to see how it turned out." I waited for the invitation that didn't come. "That sounds nice," I said carefully. "I'd love to see how it looks." "Yeah, definitely. I'll send you some pictures." Pictures of the kitchen I'd paid for in the house I'd helped them buy, during a party I wasn't invited to attend. That night, I sat in my small apartment and tried to remember the last time Leo had invited me to anything. The last time he'd called just to talk, not because he needed something or felt obligated to check in. The last time he'd seemed genuinely happy to see me. I couldn't remember. 2 days before the party, I decided to be direct. "Leo, about your housewarming party this weekend." "All right. Yeah, it should be fun. Amanda's been planning it for weeks." "Am I invited?" The question hung in the air like smoke. I could hear Leo breathing, could almost feel him calculating his response. "Dad, it's mostly Amanda's coworkers and some neighbors. You'd probably be bored. You don't really know any of these people." "I'd like to meet them." "I know, but look, it's going to be pretty crowded and Amanda's been stressed about the food and everything. Maybe we can have you over another time, just the 3 of us, so you can really appreciate the kitchen without all the chaos." Another time that would never come, I realized. "I see. Don't take it personally, Dad. It's just logistics." Logistics. That's what I'd become in my son's life, a logistical consideration to be managed around. But what Leo said next revealed the truth more clearly than anything else could have. "Besides," he added with a laugh that sounded forced, "you're probably better off just sending a check anyway. Save yourself the drive and we can put the money towards something practical. Just send a check." Like I was a distant relative who fulfilled obligation through mail rather than presents. Like my value to Leo's life could be reduced to a dollar amount and a stamp. I hung up the phone and sat in the silence of my apartment, surrounded by photos of Leo growing up, little league games, high school graduation, college visits, all the moments when I'd been his dad instead of his financial resource. That's when I understood what I'd become to my son. Not a father, not family, just a convenient source of funding who could be managed with monthly phone calls and kept at arm's length with polite excuses. Leo had trained me to stay away from his real life while remaining available for his financial needs. And I'd been cooperating without even realizing it. The housewarming party happened without me. I saw the photos on social media. Leo and Amanda laughing with friends in their beautiful new kitchen, the kitchen I'd paid for, surrounded by people I'd never been allowed to meet. In every photo, Leo looked happy and relaxed, like a man who'd successfully compartmentalized his life into neat categories: real relationships that mattered and financial obligations that could be handled remotely. I stared at those photos for a long time, trying to find any sign that my absence had been noticed or regretted. There wasn't one. That's when I decided it was time to give Leo exactly what he'd asked for. The call came 3 weeks after the housewarming party, and for once, it wasn't Leo's monthly check-in. Amanda was calling, which rarely happened unless they needed something beyond the usual mortgage payment. "Hi, Mr. Patterson," she said, her voice bright with that specific cheerfulness people use when they want something. "I hope you're doing well." "I'm fine, Amanda. How are you?" "Great, really great. Listen, I was wondering if you might be free this Saturday afternoon. Leo's company is hosting a family barbecue at Laurelhurst Park, and we thought it might be nice if you came. I almost dropped the phone. After 2 years of systematic exclusion, they were inviting me to a work function? A family barbecue? Yes, it's this annual thing Leo's company does. Very casual, just employees and their families. Leo thought you might enjoy meeting some of his colleagues. The same colleagues I'd been too boring to meet at restaurants and dinner parties were suddenly appropriate for a park barbecue? That's very thoughtful, I said carefully. What time? It starts at 2. Leo can pick you up around 1:30 if that works. Something felt off about the invitation. Too sudden, too inclusive after months of being kept at arm's length. But I'd been waiting 2 years to be included in Leo's work life, and I wasn't going to question the opportunity. I'd like that very much. Saturday was warm and sunny, perfect for an outdoor event. Leo picked me up exactly on time, looking relaxed in khakis and a polo shirt. He seemed genuinely cheerful, more animated than I'd seen him during our recent interactions. Amanda's excited you're coming, he said as we drove through the city. She's been wanting you to meet some of our friends. Friends? When had Leo's co-workers become friends Amanda wanted me to meet? I'm looking forward to it. Just so you know, it might be a little chaotic. There are usually around 50 people, lots of kids running around. Very informal. That's fine. Laurelhurst Park was crowded with families, dogs, and pickup games of frisbee. Leo's company had reserved a large picnic area near the lake, with several tables of food and a banner that read, TechFlow Solutions Annual Family Barbecue. The next 2 hours were the most I'd interacted with Leo's life since he'd gotten married. He introduced me to his boss, a friendly woman named Rachel who complimented Leo's work ethic. I met 3 of his closest colleagues, who all seemed genuinely pleased to meet Leo's dad. I played catch with several children, including one little boy who called me Mr. Leo's dad, and asked if I had any grandchildren. Not yet, I told him, but I'm hoping someday. For the first time in years, I felt like part of Leo's world instead of something he was managing around it. Amanda included me in conversations, Leo seemed proud to have me there, and people kept commenting on how nice it was to finally meet me. Leo talks about you all the time, one of his co-workers said. He's always mentioning something his dad taught him or some project you two worked on. This was news to me. Leo talked about me? What did he say during all those conversations I was never invited to join? As the afternoon wound down, Leo went to help load leftover food into cars while Amanda gathered their things. I was sitting at a picnic table watching children play on the nearby swings, when I heard Leo's voice carrying across the park. He was standing near the parking lot with 2 men I'd met earlier, his colleague Brad and someone from his company's marketing department. They were laughing about something, their voices just loud enough for me to catch fragments of conversation. Yearly obligation. Leo was saying, get it over with. I couldn't hear the response, but Leo laughed. Exactly. 1 afternoon a year and then I'm good for another 12 months. My stomach dropped. I strained to hear more, moving slightly closer while pretending to watch the children. He seemed to enjoy himself, one of the other men said. Oh, he loves this stuff, Leo replied. Getting introduced to everyone, feeling included. It keeps him happy. Keeps him happy. Like I was a child being managed with an annual treat. Smart strategy, Brad said. Much easier than dealing with him wanting to come to everything. Leo's laugh was uncomfortable now. Trust me, you don't want my dad at a work happy hour. He'd want to stay all night asking everyone about their lives. At least he's useful, right? The marketing guy said. I mean financially? The silence that followed was so long I thought they'd moved away. Then Leo's voice, quieter now. Yeah, very useful. It's just, you know how it is with parents. They want to be involved in everything, but sometimes you need your own space. Totally get it. My mom's the same way. The trick is giving them just enough to feel included without letting them take over your whole life. Like today, 1 barbecue and now he'll back off for months. 1 barbecue. An annual charitable offering to keep the ATM happy. I sat frozen at that picnic table, surrounded by the laughter of children and families, understanding finally that I wasn't Leo's father being included in his life. I was Leo's financial obligation being managed with the minimum viable social contact. The conversation moved on to other topics, but I'd heard enough. When Leo and Amanda came back to collect me, I was standing by our car, ready to leave. Dad, we don't have to go yet, Leo said. There's still some dessert left if you want. I'm ready. The drive home was quiet. Leo made a few attempts at conversation. Wasn't Rachel nice? Didn't the weather turn out perfect? Wasn't it great to meet everyone finally? I gave brief responses and stared out the window. Thanks for coming today, Leo said as he dropped me off at my apartment. I think Amanda's colleagues really enjoyed meeting you. I'm sure they did. We should do more things like this. Should. Not would, not let's plan something, just should. A vague acknowledgement that felt like checking another box. That evening, I sat in my living room and thought about what I'd overheard. Leo hadn't invited me to that barbecue because he wanted me there. He'd invited me because it was easier to give me one afternoon of inclusion than to deal with my ongoing desire to be part of his life. It was charity. An annual dose of family interaction to keep me satisfied enough that I wouldn't demand more frequent access to his real life. I thought about all the conversations Leo had with his colleagues. Conversations where he apparently mentioned me, talked about lessons I'd taught him, shared memories of projects we'd worked on together. But those conversations happened in spaces I wasn't welcome to join, with people I wasn't allowed to meet except when Leo decided it was strategically beneficial. I was a topic of conversation, not a participant in his life. The next morning, I called Leo to thank him for including me in the barbecue. He sounded pleased, almost relieved. I'm glad you had a good time, Dad. It was great having you there. Your colleagues seem like nice people. They are. We're lucky to have such a good team. Leo and his co-workers were a we. I was still just Dad, separate, outside managed. Leo, I said carefully, I've been thinking about how we might spend more time together. Maybe I could take you and Amanda to dinner sometime, or... That sounds great, Dad. Let me check our calendar and get back to you. He didn't get back to me. When I brought it up during his next monthly call, Leo said they'd been swamped at work but definitely wanted to plan something soon. Soon never came, just like another time never came, just like all the vague promises Leo made when he wanted to end conversations without committing to anything. That's when I realized the barbecue hadn't been an opening to more inclusion in Leo's life. It had been his annual payment to keep me from asking for more. And I'd been grateful for it. I'd been so starved for connection with my son that I'd treated a manipulative charity event like a gift. I'd spent the entire afternoon feeling lucky to meet people Leo saw every day, grateful for conversations with colleagues he'd been describing as friends while keeping me away from them for years. Leo had given me exactly enough to make me feel included while ensuring I wouldn't demand actual inclusion. He'd calculated the minimum social investment needed to maintain my financial investment. And it had worked perfectly. Until I understood what was really happening. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday morning, mixed in with bills and advertisements. Derek's handwriting on cream-colored cardstock, formal and careful. An invitation. You are cordially invited to celebrate the housewarming of Leo and Amanda Patterson, it read. Saturday, October 14th, 2 p.m. I stared at the invitation for a long time. After 3 weeks of thinking about what I'd overheard at the barbecue, this felt like a test. Was Leo genuinely including me this time, or was this another calculated gesture designed to keep me satisfied? I called to RSVP. Dad, did you get the invitation? Leo sounded genuinely pleased. I did. Thank you for including me. Of course. Amanda really wants you to see the finished kitchen. She's been working so hard on getting everything perfect. Perfect. The kitchen I'd paid for in the house I'd helped them buy, with mortgage payments I'd been making for over 2 years. I'm looking forward to it. Great. Oh, and Dad? It's going to be pretty casual. Just some close friends and a few neighbors. Nothing fancy. Close friends. I wondered if I counted as a close friend or just a financial obligation who needed occasional management. Saturday arrived gray and drizzly, typical Portland October weather. I drove to Leo's house. My house really, considering how much I'd invested in it, and parked behind a line of cars that stretched down the block. Nothing fancy, Leo had said. But the house was decorated like a magazine shoot, with pumpkins on the porch, elegant fall wreaths, and what looked like professionally arranged flower displays. Leo answered the door wearing a sweater that probably cost more than I spent on clothes in 6 months. Dad. Come in, come in. You're going to love what Amanda's done with the place. The house was full of people I didn't recognize, all of them younger, most of them dressed in that effortless expensive way that signals money without ostentation. Conversations paused as Leo led me through the living room, polite smiles and brief nods acknowledging my presence before resuming. Everyone, this is my dad, Leo announced to a group near the kitchen island. Dad, these are some of our neighbors, Sarah and Mike from next door and Jennifer and Tom from across the street. Nice to meet you, they said, shaking my hand with the careful politeness reserved for elderly relatives. Then they returned to their conversation about property values and school districts, topics that required no input from me. I found myself drifting through the party like a ghost, present but not really included. People were friendly enough when directly engaged, but conversations moved around me rather than through me. I was Leo's dad, an obligatory presence that everyone acknowledged but nobody particularly wanted to talk to. Amanda showed me the kitchen, pointing out features and improvements with the enthusiasm of someone displaying a prized possession. The granite countertops, the custom cabinets, the professional-grade appliances, all of it funded by my monthly mortgage payments. It turned out exactly like I pictured, she said. Leo and I are so grateful we could make this investment in our future. Our future. Their investment. My money. I smiled and complimented the workmanship, played the role of impressed father-in-law while calculating how many months of mortgage payments had gone into the backsplash alone. You must be so proud, said a woman standing nearby, someone Amanda had introduced as a colleague from her office. Very proud, I agreed, though I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be proud of, their decorating choices, their ability to spend my money, or their skill at managing me into funding their lifestyle. After an hour of polite small talk with people who clearly saw me as Leo's elderly father rather than a real person, I retreated to the back patio. A few other guests were out there, smoking and talking about work projects I didn't understand. Through the sliding glass door, I could see Leo and Amanda in their beautiful kitchen, laughing with friends, playing the role of successful young homeowners who'd built this life through their own efforts. That's when I heard the conversation that changed everything. Leo was talking to two men I'd met earlier, colleagues from his company who'd also been at the family barbecue. They were standing just inside the door, voices low but clear enough to carry through the glass. Great party, one of them was saying. Amanda really knows how to put together an event. She does, Leo agreed. Though honestly, I'm exhausted from all the prep work. At least your dad seems to be enjoying himself. Derek glanced toward the patio where I was sitting, then back to his friends. Yeah, he's fine. He just likes being included, you know? That's sweet. Very family-oriented. I guess. Leo's voice carried a tone I'd never heard before, tired, almost resigned. It's just, sometimes I wish he could just send a check and skip the whole social thing. One of his friends laughed. Brutal man. I don't mean it like that, Leo said quickly. It's just, he doesn't really fit in with our crowd, you know? He wants to be involved in everything, but he's from a completely different generation. Different interests, different everything. So why invite him? Leo was quiet for a moment. Because if I don't, he'll make it into this whole thing about being excluded. This way he feels included, Amanda gets to show off the house and everyone's happy. Smart. Keep the peace. Exactly. And honestly, he's been so helpful with the house payments and everything. The least I can do is invite him to a party once in a while. The least he could do. I sat on that patio, surrounded by the laughter and conversation of people who belonged in Leo's life, and finally understood my place in it. I wasn't Leo's father being honored at a family celebration. I wasn't a beloved parent being included in his son's success. I was a financial transaction being managed with social gestures. Leo had invited me to this party for the same reason he'd invited me to the company barbecue. Not because he wanted me there, but because including me occasionally was easier than dealing with my desire to be actually included in his life. I was the price he paid for my monthly mortgage payments. A few hours of tolerance for my presence in exchange for continued financial support. And the worst part was how calculated it was. Leo had figured out exactly how much social contact I needed to feel valued, and he was providing precisely that amount. No more, no less. Just enough to keep the checks coming. I finished my drink and walked back into the house. Leo was near the front door, saying goodbye to some early departing guests. Dad, you're not leaving already, are you? He asked when he saw me with my coat. I should get going. But you haven't seen the upstairs renovations yet. Amanda wanted to show you what we did with the master bathroom. More improvements I'd funded, in a house I'd helped buy, for people who saw me as a convenient source of financing rather than family. Another time, I said. Leo looked confused, maybe even a little concerned. Is everything okay? You seem. I don't know, quiet tonight. I'm fine. Just tired. Well, thanks for coming. It really means a lot to Amanda and me. It meant a lot. My presence at parties I funded, in houses I'd helped purchase, meant a lot to them because it justified their continued extraction of money from my retirement savings. I drove home through the Portland drizzle, past boutiques and restaurants I couldn't afford anymore thanks to Leo's monthly mortgage payments. My small apartment felt cramped and shabby after the spacious elegance of the house I'd helped create for my son. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop and bank statements, calculating exactly how much money I'd given Leo over the past 3 years. The down payment, the monthly mortgage payments, the kitchen renovation, various emergencies, and investments. It totaled $127,000. $127,000 from my retirement savings, given to a son who saw me as a financial resource to be managed rather than a father to be loved. Leo had built his entire adult life on my money while systematically excluding me from that life. He'd used my generosity to create a comfortable existence for himself and Amanda, then parceled out just enough social contact to keep me contributing. I was being farmed like a resource, harvested for monthly payments in exchange for quarterly inclusion in events where I was made to feel like an outsider. The next morning I called my bank. "I'd like to cancel a recurring transfer," I told the customer service representative. "Certainly. Can you provide me with the details of the transfer you'd like to cancel?" I gave her the account numbers, the amount, the monthly schedule that had become as automatic as breathing. "Are you sure you want to cancel this transfer?" she asked. "It's been active for quite some time." "I'm sure." "Effective immediately?" "Effective immediately." The transfer was canceled. 27 months of monthly mortgage payments ended with a phone call that took less than 5 minutes. Then I opened my laptop and wrote an email to Leo. "Leo," I typed, "I won't be continuing the mortgage assistance after this month. This isn't a punishment or a negotiation. It's simply time for you to handle your own financial responsibilities. I'm proud of the life you've built and confident you can sustain it independently. Dad." I read it 3 times, then sent it before I could change my mind. There was no drama in the message, no emotional manipulation, no detailed explanation of what I'd overheard or how it made me feel. Just a clear statement that the financial arrangement was ending. Leo called 4 hours later. "Dad, I got your email. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine. But the mortgage thing. I mean, we weren't expecting. Can we talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about. You're a grown man with a good job. You can handle your own mortgage." "I know, but we've been planning our budget around your help. We've got commitments, expenses." "Expenses? Commitments? Not, we'll miss having you in our lives, or, how can we work together on this? Just concern about money." "You'll figure it out," I said. "Dad, if this is about the party last night, if I said something wrong?" "This isn't about the party." "Then what is it about?" I could have told him about the conversations I'd overheard. Could have explained how it felt to realize I was being managed rather than included, used rather than loved. Could have detailed the precise ways he'd reduced our relationship to a financial transaction. Instead, I said, "It's about me deciding to invest in my own future instead of yours." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm done paying for your lifestyle, Leo. You're 34 years old. Figure it out." I hung up before he could respond. Leo called back 3 times that evening. I didn't answer. The silence lasted exactly 1 week. Leo's monthly check-in call, usually scheduled for the first Tuesday of each month, came 3 days early. When I answered, his voice carried a forced lightness that didn't hide his underlying tension. "Hey Dad, just wanted to see how you're doing." "I'm fine, Leo." Good. "Listen, about that email you sent last week." "What about it?" "Well, Amanda and I have been talking and we think maybe there was some kind of misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding." Pause. "Dad, we know you're going through some changes with retirement and everything. Sometimes people make big financial decisions when they're feeling isolated or—" "I'm not isolated, Leo. I'm making space." "Space for what?" "For relationships that aren't based on monthly bank transfers." Another pause, longer this time. "Is this because we haven't been seeing each other enough?" "Because Amanda and I have been talking about that too. We know we've been busy, but we want to do better." "Want to do better?" Now that the money had stopped flowing, Leo suddenly wanted to improve our relationship. "That's good to hear. So maybe we could work something out. You know, more family dinners, more time together, and we could figure out some kind of arrangement that works for everyone." Arrangement. Still transactional thinking even when he was trying to repair things. "Leo, I'm not negotiating the resumption of mortgage payments in exchange for more social contact." "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." I hung up and turned off my phone. Over the next 2 weeks, Leo left several voicemails. The tone evolved from confused to concerned to frustrated. He'd talked to Amanda. They'd discussed bringing me over for dinner. Maybe we could all sit down and work through whatever was bothering me. I didn't return any of the calls. My neighbor Mrs. Grace knocked on my door on a Thursday afternoon, holding an envelope that had been delivered to her apartment by mistake. "From your son," she said, studying the return address. "He has very nice handwriting." Inside was a card with a photograph of Leo, Amanda, and their golden retriever on the front. "Thinking of you," was printed in elegant script across the bottom. The message inside was brief. "Dad, we miss you and want to work things out. Please call us. Love, Leo and Amanda." Miss me. After 2 years of careful exclusion from their social life, they missed me now that the mortgage payments had stopped. I put the card in a drawer with utility bills and forgotten coupons. The breaking point came 3 weeks after I'd canceled the mortgage payments. Leo showed up at my apartment unannounced on a Saturday morning, looking haggard and desperate. "Dad, we need to talk." I let him in because turning away your child at the door feels wrong even when everything else about the relationship has gone wrong. "You look tired," I said. "I'm tired. Amanda and I have been trying to figure out how to make the mortgage payments without your help. And it's harder than we expected. We've had to cut back on a lot of things." I waited for him to continue. "The thing is, we built our budget around your contributions. Our whole financial plan assumed that help would continue. That was your mistake." Leo sat heavily on my couch, running his hands through his hair. "Dad, I know you're upset about something. Just tell me what I did wrong so we can fix it." "You didn't do anything wrong, Leo. You did exactly what you intended to do." "What does that mean?" I looked at my son, 34 years old, college-educated, professionally successful, sitting in my modest apartment asking me to fund his lifestyle because he'd planned his entire adult budget around my retirement savings. "It means you've been very successful at managing me as a financial resource while minimizing my involvement in your actual life." Leo's face went pale. Dad, that's not what I was doing." "Isn't it? When's the last time you called me just to talk? When's the last time you invited me to dinner without needing something? When's the last time you included me in any part of your life that didn't involve money?" Leo opened his mouth then closed it. "The barbecue," he said finally. "The housewarming party. I've been trying to include you more. You've been managing me, Leo. Giving me just enough social contact to keep me from demanding more while keeping me away from your real life." Leo stared at me for a long moment. I never thought of it that way." "I know you didn't. That's the problem. Dad, if I made you feel excluded, I'm sorry. But cutting off the mortgage payments isn't going to solve anything. It's going to solve the problem of me funding a lifestyle I'm not welcome to participate in." Leo stood up and started pacing my small living room. "This is crazy. We're family. Family helps each other. Family spends time with each other, Leo. Family includes each other in their lives. Family doesn't treat each other like a monthly obligation. I don't treat you like an obligation. When's the last time you called me for any reason other than your monthly check-in or needing something?" Silence. "When's the last time you invited me to meet your friends?" More silence. "When's the last time you seemed genuinely happy to see me instead of just politely tolerant?" Leo stopped pacing. "Dad, I don't know how to answer those questions." "Then you have your answer about why the money stopped." I walked to my kitchen and started making coffee, giving Leo space to process what we just discussed. When I returned with 2 cups, he was sitting with his head in his hands. "I've screwed this up, haven't I? You've been treating me like a resource instead of a person. Whether that's screwing up depends on what you intended." "I never intended to hurt you. But you intended to keep me at arm's length while accepting my money." Leo looked up. "That's not how I thought about it." "How did you think about it?" I thought I was being independent. Making my own life, not depending on you for everything like some people do with their parents. While depending on me for $1,200 a month. That's different. That's just financial help. Leo, there's no such thing as just financial help. Money represents time, energy, sacrifice. When you take someone's money, you're taking part of their life. Leo was quiet for a long time, staring into his coffee. "I don't know how to fix this," he said finally. "You start by deciding whether you want a relationship with me or just access to my bank account." "I want a relationship with you." "Then you build one that isn't based on financial dependence. You figure out how to pay your own mortgage and you figure out how to include me in your life because you want me there, not because you owe me something." Leo finished his coffee and set the cup down carefully. "What if I can't make the mortgage payments? What if we lose the house? Then you'll figure out what you can actually afford and build your life around that instead of around what I can afford to give you." "That's pretty harsh, Dad." "No, Leo. Harsh would be continuing to fund your lifestyle while being excluded from your life. This is just honest." Leo left that afternoon without any resolution, without any promises, without any clear path forward. I watched him drive away in his expensive car toward his expensive house, knowing he was facing the first real financial pressure of his adult life. 2 days later, Amanda called. "Mr. Patterson, I think there's been a misunderstanding between you and Leo." "No misunderstanding, Amanda. Leo says you feel left out of our lives, and I want you to know that's never been intentional." "I appreciate that. So maybe we can work something out. More family dinners, more time together, and Leo and I can take over more of the mortgage payments gradually instead of all at once." There it was again, the assumption that our relationship was negotiable, that more social contact could be traded for continued financial support. "Amanda, the mortgage payments aren't resuming. But we planned our whole budget around that help. We signed up for things, made commitments. Then you'll need to change your plans. Mr. Patterson, please. We're family. Family doesn't treat each other like ATM machines, Amanda. We don't. When's the last time either of you called me just to see how I was doing? Not because you needed something, not as a monthly obligation, just because you cared." Silence. "When's the last time you invited me to dinner without it being connected to showing off something I'd helped pay for?" More silence. "That's why the money stopped, Amanda. Not because I don't love Leo, but because I finally realized that the love wasn't mutual." "That's not true." "Then prove it. Build a relationship with me that isn't based on what I can provide financially." Amanda hung up without saying goodbye. 6 weeks later, Leo called. He'd refinanced the house and was managing payments independently. Then he asked something different. "Would you like to have dinner this weekend? Just the three of us. No agenda, no expectations. Just family dinner." His voice sounded different, tentative, genuine. When I asked what made this invitation different, he said, "I guess this time I actually want you there instead of feeling like I should want you there." At dinner, Amanda apologized for not understanding how our relationship had become transactional. Leo admitted he'd been taking me for granted emotionally and financially, getting comfortable with the idea that I'd always be available when needed without him prioritizing our relationship. "I've been thinking of you as my dad who helps me instead of my dad who I enjoy spending time with," he confessed. "I started measuring our relationship by what you could do for me instead of who you are." For the first time, Leo asked about my actual life. My interests, activities, what made me happy. I told them about my pottery, hiking group, and volunteer work. Amanda noticed I seemed more energetic, like I had my own life instead of waiting for them to include me. Leo realized he needed to learn how to have a real relationship with me. We made plans to do activities together, hiking, woodworking, pottery classes. Small steps toward building something based on shared experiences rather than financial dependence. 6 months later, we were building a bookshelf together at the community center. Leo had become dedicated to learning woodworking, showing up every week, genuinely listening and engaged. Our relationship had transformed from obligation to choice. Leo told me he and Amanda were planning to have children, and he wanted to be the kind of father who knows his children as people, not just someone they call when they need money. His communication pattern had completely changed. He now called randomly to share stories or ask about my projects, not just monthly obligation calls. "Thank you for cutting off the money," Leo said. "It forced me to grow up and gave us a chance to build something real instead of just convenient." We built something genuine that would last because it was based on choice rather than dependence. Finally, at 66, I had a relationship with my son that was worth more than money could buy. Have you ever felt taken for granted by family members who only contacted you when they needed financial help? How do you maintain healthy boundaries while still showing love? Sometimes the people we love most take advantage of our generosity until we stop giving it freely. But when we have the courage to set boundaries and demand respect, we discover who truly values us for who we are rather than what we can provide. The most important relationship you can invest in is the one you have with yourself. When you know your own worth, you won't accept relationships that require you to pay for love or buy your way into someone's life. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next chilling tale.